Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you'd do anything for them, only to realize that their loyalty to someone else, someone toxic, could tear your entire world apart? That's the nightmare I've been living for years, watching my husband, the man I thought was my rock, stand by his manipulative, soul-crushing family while I fought to keep our marriage and my sanity intact. But what I did to finally protect myself, the line I drew in the sand, might just shock you. And it's left me questioning everything about love, loyalty, and whether I can ever truly heal from the scars they've left behind. I'm still reeling from the fallout, caught between the fierce love I have for my husband and the raw, aching need to shield myself from the poison his family brings into our lives. This isn't just a story about in-law drama. It's a gut-wrenching journey of betrayal, self-discovery, and the desperate fight to reclaim my worth when everyone around me seemed hell-bent on breaking me down. Stick with me as I lay bare the pain, the rage, and the unexpected strength I found in the darkest moments. You won't believe how far I had to go to save myself, and I need your help to figure out if I've truly found peace or if I'm just fooling myself into thinking I can move forward. My name's Rachel, and I'm 34, living in a small coastal town called Beaufort, South Carolina, where the salty breeze off the Atlantic mixes with the scent of marsh grass, and the historic antebellum homes line the streets like silent witnesses to every heartbreak. I'm a part-time librarian, a job I love for its quiet, for the way books let me escape into worlds where pain isn't so personal, though I've always dreamed of writing my own stories someday. Beaufort's a place of beauty and history, with its moss-draped oaks and the slow, winding intracoastal waterway, but it's also a town where gossip spreads faster than wildfire, and family ties, good or bad, run deeper than the tides. I've been married to my husband, Mark, for 8 years now. He's 36, a contractor with a heart of gold and a stubborn streak a mile wide, the kind of guy who'd give you the shirt off his back, but can't see when he's being played. We met at a local crab boil festival right here in Beaufort, laughing over sticky fingers and cold beer, and I fell for his easy smile and the way he made me feel like I was the only person in the world. But what I didn't see back then, what I couldn't have known, was that marrying Mark meant marrying his family too. A family so toxic, so manipulative, that they've nearly destroyed everything we've built. The emotional conflict started creeping in just a few months after our wedding, though I didn't recognize it for what it was at first. Mark's family, his mom, Linda, his older sister, Tara, and a rotating cast of cousins and uncles, were always around, always in our business, always demanding something. Linda, especially, was the ringleader, a woman with a sharp tongue and a knack for guilt-tripping that could make anyone crumble. She'd call Mark at all hours, crying about some crisis. Her car broke down. She couldn't pay a bill. Tara was struggling again, and he'd drop everything to help, even if it meant canceling plans with me or dipping into our savings. At first, I tried to be understanding. I mean, family's important, right? I'd grown up in a close-knit household myself, with parents who taught me to stick together no matter what. But as the months turned into years, I started to see the pattern. Linda didn't just need help, she needed control. She'd undermine me at every turn, making snide comments about how I didn't know how to take care of her boy, or how I wasn't family enough because I didn't jump at her every beck and call. Tara wasn't much better, always stirring drama, borrowing money she never paid back, and dragging Mark into her messes. I felt like I was constantly fighting for my place in my own marriage, like I was an outsider in a battle I didn't even want to fight. The worst part? Mark couldn't, or wouldn't, see it. He'd defend them, saying they'd had it rough, that he owed them for raising him after his dad walked out when he was a kid. Every time I tried to speak up, to set a boundary, I'd see this flicker of hurt in his eyes, like I was asking him to choose between me and his blood, and it tore me apart. The internal struggle was a slow burn, a simmering mix of love, anger, and self-doubt that ate at me day after day. I'd lie awake at night in our little rental house on Bay Street, listening to the distant sound of waves crashing at Hunting Island, wondering how I'd ended up here, feeling so alone in a marriage that was supposed to be my safe haven. I loved Mark with everything I had, still do, if I'm honest. I'd think about the way he'd hum off-key while fixing our leaky sink, or how he'd surprise me with wildflowers picked from the roadside on his way home from a job site. Those moments reminded me why I'd said, I do, why I'd promised to stand by him through thick and thin. But then I'd remember the latest fight, the way Linda had dropped by unannounced on my birthday, demanding Mark help her move furniture while I sat alone with a store-bought cake, or how Tara had crashed at our place for a week, leaving a mess and snarking about my cooking. I'd feel this hot, bitter rage bubble up, mixed with a deep, aching sadness that the man I loved couldn't see how much his family was hurting me. Was I being selfish for wanting him to put us first, For wanting a marriage that wasn't a constant tug-of-war? Or was I right to feel like I deserved better, like I shouldn't have to beg for respect in my own home? The guilt was the worst part. Guilt for resenting his family. Guilt for not being understanding enough. Guilt for even thinking about walking away when I'd promised forever. Memories of the past kept flooding in, too, adding layers of confusion to my pain. I'd think about my own childhood in Beaufort, growing up in a tiny clapboard house near the marsh, where my parents worked hard but always made time for me and my brother. I remembered Sunday dinners, the smell of fried shrimp and cornbread, the way we'd laugh over silly stories while the radio played old country tunes. My family wasn't perfect, but they respected boundaries. They'd never dream of meddling the way Linda did. I thought about meeting Mark, that sticky summer day at the festival, how he'd teased me about getting crab juice on my shirt, how we danced under string lights as the band played a slow song. I remembered our wedding, a small affair at a local park overlooking the water, how he'd looked at me like I was his whole world, promising to always have my back. Where had that promise gone? I'd also think about the early days of our marriage, before the family drama took over, when we'd spend lazy weekends exploring the Lowcountry, kayaking through the marshes, or picnicking on Fripp Island, dreaming about buying a fixer-upper someday and starting a family of our own. Those dreams felt so far away now, buried under years of tension, and I couldn't help but wonder if I'd lost that version of us forever. The resentment grew over time, a heavy weight that colored every interaction, every quiet moment. I started pulling back, not on purpose at first, but as a way to protect myself. I'd stop joining Mark when he went to help his mom, staying home instead to read or walk along the waterfront, watching the shrimp boats bob in the harbor while I tried to clear my head. I'd bite my tongue during family gatherings at Linda's cluttered house on the edge of town, where the air always smelled like stale cigarette smoke and judgment, forcing a smile while her comments cut deeper each time. But the more I withdrew, the more Mark seemed to lean into his family, like he was filling the gap I'd left, and it hurt even more. I'd see him laughing with Tara over some inside joke, or patiently listening to Linda's endless complaints, and feel this sharp, jealous pang, not just for his attention, but for the ease he had with them, an ease I'd never felt. I started questioning myself more, wondering if I was the problem, if I was too sensitive, too demanding. I'd sit on our sagging porch swaying, the creak of the chains matching the ache in my chest, staring out at the palmetto trees swaying in the breeze, and ask myself if love was supposed to feel this hard, this lonely. Was I failing as a wife by not accepting his family, or was I failing myself by letting them walk all over me? The unexpected twist came about 6 months ago, and it flipped everything I thought I knew on its head, forcing me to see Mark and his family in a new, heartbreaking light. It was a humid August evening, the kind where the air feels like a wet blanket and the cicadas are so loud they drown out your thoughts. Mark was at Linda's, helping with some emergency repair, and I was home alone, cleaning out a closet to distract myself from the familiar sting of being left behind. Under a pile of old blankets, I found a small, weathered notebook I didn't recognize at first. Curious, I flipped it open, and my stomach dropped when I realized it was Mark's, pages of his messy handwriting, dated over the past few years. It wasn't a diary, exactly, more like random thoughts, lists, and vents, but as I read, I felt like I was seeing into his soul for the first time in ages. He wrote about how torn he felt, how he knew his family was a lot, and how he hated how it strained us, but also how he felt trapped by guilt, by the memory of his mom struggling alone after his dad left, by the fear that if he didn't help, they'd fall apart completely. There was a page where he admitted he saw Linda's manipulation, how she'd guilt him into things, but he didn't know how to stop without feeling like a bad son. Another entry, dated just a month earlier, said he was terrified of losing me, that he knew I was pulling away, and that he didn't know how to fix it without betraying either me or them. Reading those words, sitting cross-legged on our bedroom floor with the notebook trembling in my hands, I felt a flood of emotions I couldn't name. Anger that he'd never said this out loud, sadness for the pain he was carrying, and a strange, reluctant empathy for the impossible spot he was in. All this time, I'd thought he was blind to it, that he was choosing them over me, but here was proof he was just as trapped, just as torn, wrestling with his own guilt and love in a way I hadn't seen. It didn't erase the hurt. God, no. I was still raw from years of feeling second best, but it added a layer I hadn't expected, a realization that this wasn't just about me versus them. It was about Mark's own battle, one he'd been fighting silently. I thought about all the times I'd snapped at him, accused him of not caring, and wondered if I'd been unfair, if I'd missed how much he was struggling too. But I also wondered why he couldn't just tell me, why he let me feel so alone when he knew how much I was hurting. The notebook didn't solve anything. If anything, it made the conflict messier, because now I had to decide if this changed how I fought for myself, if I could keep pushing for boundaries knowing how much it cost him. That discovery fueled the response that even I didn't anticipate, a quiet but firm stand that became my way of protecting myself without completely shutting him out. I didn't confront Mark about the notebook. I wasn't ready for that rawness, and I don't think he was either, but I decided I couldn't keep living like a doormat, waiting for him to choose me. Instead, I started setting boundaries, small at first, but unyielding. I told Mark I wouldn't be joining him for family emergencies anymore unless it was truly urgent, explaining that I needed space to focus on myself, on my own mental health. I started saying no to Linda's unannounced visits, politely but firmly telling her we needed notice, even if my voice shook every time. I carved out time for me, joining a local writing group at the library, taking long walks along the Beaufort River Walk at sunset, watching the golden light dance on the water while I let myself breathe. It wasn't easy. Every no felt like a battle, every boundary like I was drawing a line between me and Mark, and the guilt still gnawed at me, especially when I saw the confusion in his eyes or heard Linda's passive-aggressive jabs over the phone. But I kept going, telling myself I deserved to feel safe in my own life, that love didn't mean sacrificing my entire self. I even started therapy, something I'd never considered before, driving to a counselor in nearby Bluffton once a week to unpack the anger, the hurt, the fear of losing Mark if I pushed too hard. The months after that were a roller coaster, a fragile dance between standing my ground and still holding on to the love I had for my husband. Mark noticed the change, and at first, it caused tension. He'd get quiet when I declined to tag along to Linda's, or he'd ask why I was so distant, his tone a mix of hurt and frustration. But slowly, I saw flickers of something else. He started texting me before agreeing to help his family, asking if it was okay, if we had plans. It wasn't perfect, and there were still blow-ups. Linda called me selfish to my face at a family barbecue, and Mark didn't defend me as fast as I'd hoped. But it was progress, tiny steps that felt like victories, even if they came with bruises. I kept writing, too, pouring my pain into short stories at the library group, finding solace in crafting characters who fought for themselves the way I was trying to. I'd walk past the historic homes on the point, their white columns and wraparound porches glowing in the dusk, and feel this mix of strength and uncertainty. Strength for the boundaries I'd set, uncertainty about whether they'd hold, whether Mark and I could rebuild what we'd lost. I started dreaming again, picturing a future where we had a home of our own, far from his family's reach, where we could start fresh, maybe even have kids someday. But every dream came with a shadow of doubt. Could we get there, or was the damage too deep? I've been reflecting a lot on the past, too, trying to untangle why this has been so hard, why I've struggled to stand up for myself until now. I think about my parents, how they taught me to be kind, to compromise, how my mom always said marriage was about give and take. Maybe that's why I let things slide for so long, why I thought loving Mark meant accepting everything, even the pain. I remember family vacations to Edisto Beach, collecting shells with my brother while Dad grilled burgers. How safe and simple life felt back then. I think about my first heartbreak in high school, how I swore I'd never let anyone make me feel small again, and wonder why I forgot that promise when it came to Mark's family. I think about our early years, too, the way we'd sit on the beach at Hunting Island, planning our future while the waves crashed, how I believed nothing could break us. I wonder if that Rachel is still in me, the one who believed in unbreakable love, or if she's been worn down by years of feeling unseen. I want to believe I can find her again, merge her with the stronger, boundary-setting me I'm becoming, but I'm not sure how. Beaufort itself feels like a backdrop to this struggle, a place of beauty and weight that mirrors my heart. I walk its streets, past the shrimp docks and the old gullah churches, the air thick with history and salt, and feel both grounded and lost. The marshes stretch out like a reminder of resilience, surviving storms and tides, but also of murkiness, of things hidden beneath the surface. I think about the water, always moving, always reshaping the land, and wonder if I can be like that, adaptable, strong, even when the current pulls against me. I've started writing about the town in my stories, capturing the way the light hits the river at dawn or the sound of church bells on Sunday mornings, using my words to process the chaos, to hold on to myself. I picture a future where Mark and I are kayaking through the marshes again, laughing like we used to, where his family's shadow doesn't loom over us. But I also picture a future where I'm alone, where I've had to walk away to save myself, and the thought terrifies me as much as it frees me. The uncertainty is a heavy fog, much like the one that rolls in off the ocean, obscuring what's ahead. I'm sitting here now, in the quiet of our living room, the faint hum of crickets outside our window on this warm South Carolina night, a notebook open on my lap with half-written lines about a woman learning to stand tall. Mark's asleep upstairs, unaware of the storm still brewing in my mind, and I'm wondering if the boundaries I've set are enough, if they'll protect me without breaking us. That notebook of his is still hidden in the closet, a secret I'm not ready to face with him, and I wonder if we'll ever talk about the pain we've both carried, if we can rebuild trust on such shaky ground. I'm left asking myself if I can keep loving him while protecting myself, if I can hold on to the marriage I dreamed of without losing who I am. How do you balance love and self-respect when the people tied to your partner keep tearing you down? How do you know when to fight for a relationship and when to let go for your own sake? I want to believe there's a path forward, a way to heal the wounds and build something stronger, but I'm scared of what I might have to lose to get there. I'm sharing this story with you because I'm still searching for clarity, still trying to navigate the messy tangle of love, loyalty, and self-preservation. Have you ever had to set boundaries with a partner's family, to fight for your place in a relationship when it felt like the odds were against you? How did you handle it? Did you stand your ground, find a compromise, or walk away? Maybe you've loved someone so much it hurt, but had to protect yourself from the collateral damage of their world. How did you decide what was worth fighting for? And did you ever regret it? I'd love to hear your experiences, your insights, because I believe we can learn from each other's battles and breakthroughs. As I look ahead, I'm wondering if